The term neurodivergent says refers to people that are described as neurodiverse when their thought patterns, behaviors, and learning styles fall outside of what's considered typical. It actually says normal. I don't like that word normal, so I took the word normal out of it. I say typical. Hi, I'm James Lott Jr. It's Independent Voices here on JLJ Media. I believe language is important. I do always. I always practice that. And this neurodivergent stuff is coming up more and more, actually, in my life, professionally and personally. So I am very excited to talk to people who are working in that world. And once again, in insurance industry, which is very vast, we've done this for 3 years, it's been very vast and wide, that there is a section for everyone in this business. It is no joke. And these folks are going to tell you what they do and what they say. So Neuro Talent works in insurance, diversity insurance. It's a job training and hiring program. They work with insurance carriers, I believe, in business and companies. And these two people are very important to all of that. So I'm very happy to have them. First, help me welcome the Director of Business Development, Monica Mitrani.
Mitrani.
Mitrani. Oh, I love that. Yes. Welcome, Monica. How are you?
I'm very well, James. Thank you. Thank you so much for having us. I appreciate that.
My pleasure. And we also have the co-founder, executive director of this wonderful business, Miss Jessica Lee.
Woo. Jessica. Hello. Thank you for having us.
It was my pleasure. So this show, Independent Voices, is on all platforms, audio platforms, from iHeartRadio to Spotify to Google, Apple. Just type it in, it's there. It's part of JLJ Media also, which is my company. I'm the JLJ of JLJ Media. Say that 5 times fast. And that's on YouTube. So go to YouTube, which is JLJ Media. I mean, I make it so simple for you. And this and many of the other episodes are on here. So, ladies, Monica, Jessica, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. So at the beginning of the show, I said the official definition with an alteration of a word. It's like, I hate the word. I hate the words perfect, normal. It's kind of like, is that correct? Can we say, Jessica, is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. And I love the way that you framed it, because you're right. There is no normal, really. And the terms in the community are typically neurodivergent or neurodistinct and neurotypical. So you got it. You hit it right on the head. And it's funny because I was just having a conversation with one of our business partners today, and we were trying to dive into why neurodiversity is something, it's for so long not had a seat at the table when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But it's a complex topic. It's not apparent. So even when you look at disabilities, you have apparent and not apparent, and that also encompasses mental health and neurotypicality. And it's such a broad topic. But what I love, and I think you got to it, is that neurodiversity appreciates all people at all margins. And there's so much we could dive into there, but I loved your intro.
Thank you. Yeah, my whole thing is, because nowadays we're having language beforehand. There's language now for many of the things that are not apparent disabilities. I'm so glad you brought that up. That's very important. And so it's helping educate folks who don't know this, that many non-apparent disability folks can still work, can do jobs, can work effectively and successfully. Isn't that correct, Ms. Monica? That you actually can, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's very interesting because you bring up a very good point about education. Education starts with language, because so many times there's this elephant in the room that no one knows exactly how to talk about it, what to say, how to name it. And so it all begins a cultural shift, and we're going to see a tectonic shift. That's my prediction. We are about to see a humongous tectonic shift in how people perceive diversity. And it's going to broaden and include this diversity that we are talking about that you cannot see. And yes, absolutely. This diversity brings people that have tremendous gifts that perhaps you might not be aware of, and it makes them exceptionally qualified for certain types of jobs. Not only can they do the job, but they're exceptionally qualified to do certain kinds of jobs. And others may have some challenges in certain areas that might make you think that they wouldn't be effective in their jobs. But the opposite is actually true. If you put them in the right environment, and by right environment, I mean you actually let them be creative, you let them go where their minds take them, you as an employer can reap the rewards of that extraordinary creativity and of those gifts.
Yeah, I know for some corporate spaces, I know it's hard for them to slow down for a second and actually accept what you just said, basically, and go, okay, well, let's take the time to figure out what tasks they do very well. I mean, I feel like it's because I found from some of the neurodiverse people that I've met, super smart, super smart. But just but I mean, it's the same. Take it out of that space. Just people in general. Everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
There's some folks who are visual learners. There's some folks who are hands-on. They're better hands-on. There's some folks who are better to read. I mean, just in general, there's like people who are different. Then you factor in the neurodivergent, or even the autistic space, or even other sides, the dyslexic space. Like I said, all the things you can't see. I always feel like if we could take the time to kind of work with our workforce and go, okay, well, no, they're good. We just can't put the same stuff on them that we might do with someone else who doesn't have that thing. That's kind of what it is, kind of, Jessica, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say it varies. What you just described is what many call like job carving. How do you look at carving a job to the strengths of the individual who you are employing or who you are hiring? And in some cases, job carving is really helpful and actually something we should do for all of our team members, because all of us have strengths and weaknesses, and there should be no shame to that. And that's so much of what we're trying to bring to the workplace, which is the word disability, the thought of disability is always not able, right? That's just like, again, back to language. And it's marginalized our community in so many ways. And we're really here to redefine what that means. And the biggest key in that is removing the shame from disability. Like that is so essential for anyone to show up authentically, to find a place of belonging where we can talk about weaknesses and challenges without shame. And the transformation that happens on a team when we can do that. And neurodiversity gives language to that, to be able to even talk about that. And to us, that then creates human connection. And if you look at today's workplace, the state of social media, the state of like the pace at which life is changing and evolving, human connection is what we need most. And neurodiversity creates that conversation for us. And that's why we're so excited about what we do to put language in the world, to say, this is how my mind works best. And thank God I have team members where like organization is not my strongest skill, but thank God my team member, that is their skill. Whether they're neurodivergent or not, we can talk about it in a much more meaningful way. And neurodiversity forces us to talk about it in such plain and specific language. So we could go on and on about this, James. We might need like a part 2 and 3.
I know. I love it. I do. I love it. That almost, and that's kind of the point. We're going to go a little specific, like what you guys do and stuff. But I want the conversation open with this because it is a broad conversation. I mean, people think it's someone else's, but that's way over there. That's something I'll never have happen to me. And it's kind of like, no, the world at large, we're all in this together. The workforce is together. So chances are, someone in that workforce this is going to happen for you, or happen to you, or happen with you, or happen near you. It's not this thing you hear about on the news and you're like, oh, that never happens to me. The person sitting next to you could be something that has something that you have no idea about. You've been wondering why they work this way, like why they always work better than this. Like it's just that this is for everyone. I wanted to start out broad,
Yeah.
just so people get the idea that this is for everybody. This is news for all of us out here.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get that out there. And now we're going to go a little more in depth. And I will start with you, Jessica, because you are a co-founder. What is Neuro Talent Works? What is Neuro? What is it? What is it?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yes, thank you. So Neuro Talent Works, we are a nonprofit organization, social enterprise. We started this organization almost 7 years ago to address the high 80% unemployment rate of adults with autism. So we specifically had started in autism, but since then have branched out to all neurodiversity. My co-founders, Harag and Lisa, there's a whole backstory here. We come from the consulting background. Harag and I were consultants together on a project, and but Harag and Lisa, their youngest son has some learning differences, and through exploring and looking into understanding him more and the community and supports that are available, they went to a conference on autism, heard about this 80% unemployment rate, and they were like, this is crazy. They had friends, kids who were autistic, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, who can tell you your birthday on the day in 2054, like that. And they're like, how is it possible that children who are so gifted and skilled have an 80% unemployment rate? This does not connect here. So you live in LA, James. You understand the traffic going from West LA to Pasadena. Harag literally came to this idea, and Lisa's writing it on a napkin, the whole business model. And the idea and thought of, we see nonprofits that are getting job candidates ready for employment and government agencies and services. But the big question of who's getting employers ready? How are businesses knowing and understanding what neurodiversity is? Is this the missing piece in the high unemployment rate? And so the first year of the organization was spent talking to all the experts who were doing the work and saying, is there a need? Is there someone who needs to be working with businesses specifically, who speak the business acumen language, who understand the culture of change in organizations? Is that a need? And it was a resounding yes, please, yes, and that's why we started 7 years ago. And our very first business partner to hire with us and do this together was a family-owned agency, insurance agency, Weaver and Associates in Arcadia, California. And they took the chance, opened the door for our community, and hired 2 people with us and gave us the idea for the program we're here to share with you about, this neurodiversity insurance program. Dana at Weaver said, this is a huge opportunity for your community. And I'd love to tell more about the Weaver story because it's so important.
Yes, we'll get
Keep
there.
going. We'll come back to it.
You'll get there. So I want to say, first of all, congratulations, 7 years. That's good. And I make jokes because if you're not from Los Angeles, you understand. She said from the west side of Los Angeles to Pasadena, that could be an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in the car. So yeah, plenty of time to work this business model out.
Yeah, and this is pre-pandemic. Yes.
Well, you were in the car for a while.
Yeah.
Folks, you take the 10 across or what am I? Anyway, the point is, so they had some time to work this out. But I just want to ask you before I get to Monica first. I want to ask Monica a question. But first, for you, did you ever work in? Because you say you come from consulting stuff. Did you ever work in any kind of neuro field? Like, would you do anything like that, or no?
No, I have a cousin I grew up with that has Down syndrome. So the special place in my heart for her in the community definitely comes from that lived experience. But I'm like what they call a civilian to the neurodiverse community. And it's just like anything in life, right? When you've seen it, when you know it, you can't unsee it and unknow it. And this work has been the most meaningful, life-changing work. And now I have friends that are autistic and neurodivergent, and it's incredible. So
yeah, very cool. That's very cool.
No, but
yes,
anyone can enter this work, and anyways, more to say on that later.
I don't got time. We'll get there. I will get Monica. I want to find out how this came into her orbit as you became your business development director. How did you find about this company and all this?
So I have an interesting story. I also come from the business for profit consulting. Then I did a lot of market research, decades in market research, and I did a lot of things. And one day I woke up and I said, "Wait a minute, is this it?" And so those really fundamental questions I asked myself. I went into a program called it's an executive program at the University of Pennsylvania called Social Impact Strategy, where I met Jessica.
Oh,
And she was in the very beginnings of that idea of that program, trying to develop this organization, and we were friends. And so I did a shift in my own career and I started doing my own things, consulting for other nonprofits in other spaces, helping a lot of underprivileged children and
okay.
young adults. So I did a lot of that for a while, and then one random day I came across a posting from my friend Jessica, and I said, let me read that." And then I said, "Oh, I think I could make a difference here. I think I could do something. I could help move the needle. This is good." But before that, actually, I went to a gala for Neuro Talent Works. A few months before that, I had been to a gala, and one of the parents, who happens to be a board member for Neuro Talent Works, was telling the story of his son gaining employment and the impact it had on him as a human being, as a just a contributing member of society, the impact it had on their family, the impact it had on their communities. So, and by communities, I mean it was at the church, it was at the supermarket, it was at, all the communities that that family touches were somehow impacted by this one person being able to have a real, genuine opportunity. And I got to tell you, that blew my mind. So I walked out of there with my heart full, and I said, "Yes, look at this amazing work." And I was so inspired. I dragged my husband to it, and he walked out and he was just like, "This is amazing. This is the best thing ever." So then coming full circle, months later, like, I don't know, 6, 7 months later, I come across this, more even, almost a year later, I came across this post and I said, hmm. And so I wrote to Jessica, and she says, "How do we do this? We're friends. I think you got to interview with the board or something."
How fun! Oh, how
And
funny!
so, and that's how I ended up coming on board. Best decision ever.
Oh,
Well,
Best decision ever. Not because she's here, but I'm telling you, James, best decision ever.
ours too, though.
I'll tell you something. There's no coincidences. I believe in no coincidences. I don't. It's all ordained to you. You guys were meant to work together. Clearly, I love that. I love that. I want to ask you about the Weaver story. Tell us about the Weaver story.
Yeah, thanks. So, yes, okay. So, Weaver and Associates, they when they heard about the work we were doing, um, they're like, "Okay, tell me more about your community. Tell me about, who are these job candidates?" And they were telling us about also their business and what was going on in their business, which was that they, as you and many of the listeners here know, in insurance agencies and carriers, those entry level positions of transaction processing for policy renewals, issuing certificates of insurance, all of those transactional activities, many have been outsourced to other jobs because of the high turnover rate here for those positions, because of the repetitiveness and routine of the task. So Dana and Matt and Denise are sitting there listening to us, and they're like, "Wait, so you're telling me that you have a community of people and job candidates who enjoy routine, who like the predictability, who are detail oriented, and would stay in this job for more than a year?" And I said, "Yes, there's a segment of our community where that is a perfect fit for them and for their skill sets." And so when we talked about even our brains and how our brains develop, there are certain people in society and those in our neurodistinct community where they are apt for their brains to enjoy and thrive in that type of work. And so they said, oh my gosh, we got to do this with you. We got to bring these jobs back to the US and we got to bring them in-house to our office, and we're going to do it right here. And 6 months later, we did it. We trained the part of what we do is training. So we train businesses on neurodiversity inclusion. We are a trusted partner that walks along with you every step of the way. What Dana shares too is like, as we did this work together, it also started to uncover, again, different ways our brains work. So you had mentioned before, James, of like different learning styles, right? When you're training a new hire, oftentimes it's just like this, maybe sharing a screen, using your voice to like explain things. Well, it quickly became apparent to us that we have to be looking at this from the dimension of everyone learning differently. So we ended up putting process flows together, a visual way of describing the training and the concepts of how transactions move from a customer to a processor to the manager in the agency, and like laying that out visually, having screenshots, having it written. And this is universal design. This is what we do in classrooms because we know students and children learn in various formats. We're bringing that now to the workplace. And what's beautiful is Weaver and others have said, oh my gosh, this helps all of our employees, right? And that's the beautiful partnership that happened. And so they hired 2 people with us, and it's been an incredible journey. And so when we were doing this, Dana said, oh my gosh, if we can do this right with you, there's an opportunity to go deeply in the insurance industry for these transaction processing roles. She planted the seed, 5 years ago. And now today, we have partnered with the California Department of Rehabilitation. They are funding this 1-year program, which is a 3-week job training program on the principles of insurance, partnering with Insurance Community University, who's put together this principles of insurance training with us to build this neurodiverse talent pool for the insurance industry in California. And we are ready and looking for agencies and carriers to hire from this program. We have a talent pool ready for you, and we can share more about that. But that idea 5 years ago from Weaver to now.
So you guys are working on both sides of it. So as we were talking a little earlier, you're like, okay, we're here helping out the actual companies on how to work, and you also have a pool of people who are neurodivergent.
Yep.
So you're like a one-stop shop.
Yes, we are.
No, seriously.
We are.
If you can't see nowadays, folks, I'm telling you, I always say, if people want to be spoon-fed, and I say that in the most loving way, they want it so they don't have to go to 10 places for something. Mm-hmm. It's like they just want one place. Like I said, one such a place. It's an old saying, one-stop shop, but like you get it, it's like just one place. What can you offer me? The more you can offer them, right, Miss Monica? The more you can offer them because your business development.
Absolutely.
Right? So
we got it. The thing about that is that we have, because so many of us come from a consulting background, we actually have the ability, the real ability, to meet you where you are. So if you are a small company and you have 5 employees and you really want to have that 6th employee, you want that employee to be a disabled employee, you want that employee to be a neurodistinct employee, we will tell you, we will walk with you on that journey and tell you how to do it. You're a Fortune 500 company and you say, I need a program to figure this out, because this can't just be, just pure words in the air, because that's not going to fly at these larger organizations. We will also meet you where you are. We have a team in place. We'll come, we'll sit down, we'll take a look at what's in place already. How do you connect the dots? What are the gaps in between all of those places? And we will advise you hey, you need to work a little bit harder here. This is how you're going to go. And we actually develop a roadmap. The idea is not that these companies need us for the long haul. No. Our objective, our main objective is to help a company get this started, get it in motion, and put, sustainment practices across the board so that we can walk away and be like, you got this. Go, off you go. So that's really our primary objective is to allow companies to learn how to do it right, to do it well, and that whenever there is a neurodistinct candidate or a current employee, because that's another thing.
Ask you
Like
that.
there are a lot of neurodistinct individuals right now in the workforce that
Ask you that.
might not be disclosing.
Yeah.
And so you are servicing that, and I guess Jessica pointed out just earlier, not just those people who are neurodistinct, you are helping everyone. So if you look at studies, there are studies that say 30% up to 80% increase in productivity in teams that are neurodiverse, meaning that they have a diversity of minds working in the same team. So this isn't like just, I want to do good and I want to, look good doing something good. No, this is good business.
It's both.
Business sense. This is smart. This is intelligent. This is important. And like the flip side at the beginning of the conversation, this also impacts not just that one person. It impacts an entire community. And that starts to kind of shift. That's why I meant the tectonic shift, because it starts to shift, how we think about other people, because it's not just the person who's neurodistinct, but it's, wait a minute, do I have something to learn myself on how I communicate with my daughter, with my husband, with my neighbor, with my, and it starts to change the fabric of society. So it starts with language, but at the end of the day, we're here for a cultural shift.
Yeah. And please, Jessica, what do you want to add?
Just the last thing to add to that is the cultural shift and removing the barriers that we know exist for the neurodiverse community. That is key.
Yeah, I would say, I think, well, half of my friends are on strike right now here in Los Angeles and New York. And others may be joining them soon. We have lots of stuff going on. But one of the things I'm also noticing, and I do want to say this started with Gen Z. I have to give it to. I think Gen Z started this workplace culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought of diversity as just, I call it diversity as normality, just like something where it's just, it should be. Like, we don't make a big deal about it, folks. Like, they're like, my generation, we made a big deal about it, of course. We're fighting our way through. But I think this generation is kind of like, well, no, it's just how it should be. You know how it was, Monica. We're like, oh, you got to give it to us. More women, more of this, more color. Like, I think now it's kind of like, this is how it should be. Just that's how it should be. So I'll need to scream loud about it, but fix it. Like, just I'm not going to work. A lot of folks aren't taking jobs. They're just like, never mind. I don't like the culture. I don't like what you're saying. I don't understand for. So you're actually doing a service on that too, on some end. You're like saying, okay, folks, we recognize this, and we're here to help that too, right, Jessica? Basically,
totally. Yes. Absolutely. The generation that is coming up in the workforce expects that companies are action oriented in their commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I was at a career fair last week and standing there just listening, observing, and a young woman who walked up to the recruiter and said, "What are you all doing to be inclusive for people with disabilities?" And, the recruiter, she knew her stuff. And she was like, this is what we're doing. And the individual asked, are there benefits that are provided? Like there is an expectation that companies are at least aware and educated on what is available and what they could be doing. And there's the human behind it, right? The reason we do it. You brought it up. It came up, I think, earlier. I wanted to mention what last week I was at a conference and I didn't stop to think about this. She said, most people don't realize all of us can enter the disability community at any time, right? And I think about interviews with somebody who had a traumatic brain injury because they were wearing fuzzy socks, holding stuff, walking down this hardwood floors, and life completely changed, right? I mean, it could happen to anyone, any of us.
Yeah,
And as
I want to say something to that actually. 5 years ago last week, my fans, my family know this. I woke up and couldn't speak. I had a severe case of Bell's palsy. You know, for the next 5 days, my face drooped and collapsed.
gosh,
I'm still even recovering still from it. I'm talking, I mean, it's a long story. My story's out there, it's documented, but it's a long story. But to this day, I'm still with some issues in my face. But for the most part, I'm way better than I was 5 years ago. And I had a severe case lasted almost a year.
yeah, wow.
So I learned how to work where I couldn't cough, spit, sneeze. I mean, you forget how much your face, everything's connected. I was an ex-nurse, so I forgot how much my face was connected. How I could, because my brain, I had lots of headaches at the time, and it was just like, how do you? I had to figure out, like, after I went through the why me stage, I was kind of like, okay, well, I got to figure something out because I'm not rich. First of all, I live in a mansion. I live in Los Angeles, where it costs money to live here. So how can I do it? So even that, when you just said, I was like, that's something that hit me. Like, I had to find different ways of how to work.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
right about that. Your life condition. So maybe go back to what you said, but life. I just want to piggyback to say. I just want to say I'm a version of that. I know I had to find a way until I came back to. I'm 95% back to where I was before, but I had to find a way to work.
Yeah.
I had work to do. I had things to do. I couldn't just sit at home.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
us.
Very painful, but I got to talk. I always talk about Bell's palsy. Check it out, folks. You never heard it before.
Yeah.
But any kind of brain injury, anytime
Yeah.
it can happen. Literally, I mean, literally, I woke up and I was like, I can't move my mouth. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
So, but then other parts of you still work. So
Yeah.
you just gotta.
Yeah. And you knew the life before, right? Like you're like, I know this is how my brain worked before. How do I put language now to describe to people, explain to them what this means and how it's different for me now? And I think that's what is the hardest part for our community is like, how do I explain to someone how my brain works and that I'm not socially awkward. I'm not picking up on the social cues in the same way that might come naturally to somebody else. Or, my frame of reference sees the world in a little more literal black and white way. And so that's how do I explain that to you? That's just how my brain works. To me, that's normal, right? To you, it's not. And these are the interesting conversations we have too, even of like, is the diagnosis and the things we call it's for the neurotypicals who don't understand the neurodiverse, right? And so we gotta shift that burden, and have words and conversations like this about it.
Yeah, because we have to, because you said, because you are working together. I mean, first we think, well, it shouldn't matter. You're just doing your job. Well, that affects your job.
Yeah.
If someone comes to you with an issue that's work related and you react a certain way that they're not used to,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can't articulate back to you, then it becomes this where then they're confused too, because, well, why is this person getting mad at me, or why is this person? I mean, it's that less, right? It's that level, right? It's down to that level sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
A lot of us work more than we're at home. Depends what the job is. I've seen insurance sometimes. Insurance is a great industry, but a lot of times you can go home, take care of the kids, that kind of stuff too. But there are times you're working hard. You're underwriting something or doing this or whatever's going on, depending on what kind of insurance you're in. I have friends who are in Hollywood insurance and entertainment insurance. It's a lot of stuff. But I always feel like you have to, and sometimes you're at work a little more than you're at home. So you are dealing with each other more, even on maybe sometimes you're more, I mean, intimate, not in terms of whatever, but like just like you're working on a project together. And it's like, it's very serious. You have to get into it. It's like, you got to know how to communicate with each other. That's just very important.
Yeah. And whether you have a disability or not, and especially if you have a disability, you should not be banned from having the opportunity for employment. And that's what we're here to advance.
So, okay. So I'm going to say, Monica, so you have this program, working with the California Department of Rehabilitation, which is great. They had one of those. So that's good. That's good to know. So I had no idea. Good to know. I just noticed that I did the Sacramento. There should be a department of everything there. I'm sure I should know by now. But that's very cool. Are you guys so far right now leaders solely in insurance industry? Is that what you guys doing right now? Or are you branching
Well,
out?
this particular program that launched this very week, so this conversation is very timely.
Congratulations.
We're very excited. It
Congratulations.
launched just this week. Is specific for the insurance industry in California. The idea is that this serves as a pilot on a number of different fronts. So it serves as a pilot for companies that want to say, hey, maybe we'll, after this 1 year program, we want to take this and we want to, kind of absorb it into our own organization and run with it nationwide. So there's that aspect of it as a pilot for an individual company that wants to do that, whether it's an agency or whether it's a carrier, it doesn't matter. At the same rate, it's a pilot for the state of California to say, hey, maybe state of New York, do you guys want to, do this? This is an example of how you can do it, replicate this program in other states and potentially replicate this program in different industries. So a lot of eyes are on this program to see sort of how it all comes together. And we really have to, we are going to rely on our business partners that are going to come in and be a part of this journey with us, because that's really at the end of the day what's going to prove whether this worked or didn't work, is the success that these individuals have in their new jobs, in their employment, in their space, given all of that. And one of the things that, so basically Neuro Talent Works does three things. We do work with talent, we do work with businesses, and then we work on matching that and ensuring that programs are sustainable. And one of the things that we learned is that coaching is really important. Jessica brought up the point of barriers. One of the biggest barriers is that people are scared. What do I do? How do I handle this? We get phone calls. Oh my gosh, somebody just disclosed. What do I do? Like, how does this work? And so we are there to provide that. We'll dig in deep into how do you do it? What accommodations do you have? We'll go where a whole lot of other organizations won't go. We go there and we help you. We help organizations figure it out and to whatever's right for that specific organization. I don't know. I give you a mouthful.
I love it. And I would love to continue talking with you, ladies. I can't. I have to wrap up the show. That's what's so beautiful about this is that, so folks, you want to know more, of course, well, we'll tell you where you can find them and everything. But this is such a great conversation. I'm so glad we had a chance to have an opening conversation about this. It's very important because, again, I said it affects my life personally and people around me. And this is something for everyone in the workplace. But for those of you, because this is an insurance podcast, there's thousands of different companies here in insurance in California. So I'm gonna have Jessica. What would you like to see happen, Jessica? Since you're manifesting Neuro Talent Works and what would you like to see happen? What would you like to see happen, Miss Jessica?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again so much for having us. What I would love to see happen is this year, exactly a year from now, that we have a conversation together, James, and we look back and say, wow, look, this is the first podcast we're coming on to share about this program in the insurance industry. I want to be able to say, wow, look at the insurance agencies and carriers that came and said, yes, I want to be a leader in this industry. I want to embrace neurodiversity inclusion, and I'm going to open the door and give a chance to this community through this specialized program this year. And we are going to show the country and the world what it looks like for an industry to choose to be advancing neurodiversity inclusion together. No one else has done that yet across the country. The insurance industry and leaders have the opportunity to be at the forefront of that. And to know that you have partners and Monica and I and our team to walk alongside you as we do that. That's what I want. 1 year from today, we come back on here and we're going to be able to say, look who came and wanted to do this with us.
I love that. Yes. Okay. You're from a date. You're from today. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll talk sooner than that off camera, but I'm going for this. Yes. But definitely, I like that idea. And it's going to be wonderful a year from today. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
I know it is. Uh, Also, where can they find you? I'm going to put it in the description below, but I want you to say it out loud to folks where they can find you.
Yes, they can find us online on your website at neurotalentworks.org/insurance, specifically for this program. We're on all social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn at Neurotalentworks.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I follow you, folks. I'm going to follow them because I think I'm following you guys. I'll make sure I follow you on all social media platforms, of course. Thank you, Miss Monica. Thank you, Miss Jessica. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm rooting for you all. This is a great organization, folks. A great nonprofit. Please, folks, check them out. Run, don't walk. Well, go to your computer. Run to your computer, your tablet, your phone, wherever. Do it
Absolutely.
because James told you to. Just do it. I wouldn't steer you wrong. Thanks for being on the show, of course. Independent voices everywhere. Go to iabcal.org. I've said it a million times. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm tripping on my words. iabcal.org. That's what it is. Check out for any other programs too, including this one. This will be on the website too, but also any other programs, or they have like their classes. They have all kinds of stuff coming up. So check them out there. I'm James Lott Jr. You can find me where all James Lott Jr.'s are at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms, including TikTok. I'm a TikTok star, apparently. Check out what I'm doing over there. It's crazy. But folks, have a great day and share your independent voice.